Hello, everybody. I'm going to do a little walkthrough of how to set up N.I.N.A. It's a pretty popular imaging software for astrophotography, and so I'm going to do a little walkthrough. Okay, here we go. Open it up here. I'm going to close this. I'm going to reopen. I'm going to go from the beginning here. This is I'm using, I've got several different profiles. I'm going to use the ASCAR FRA 400 profile for this. Load profile. And it comes to your equipment. Setting up your equipment is pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to do anything with that. You like for your camera, you would just drop this down and pick the camera that you're using. They're all the same. So what I'm mainly going to work on is setting up advanced sequencer. I clicked on this little, it looks like 3 lines on the left side, and that brings up your sequencer panel, I guess. I'm going to do the advanced sequencer. Now, I've got several different templates set up here for all these down through here are ones that I've set up. And I'm going to show you how to set one up. If you go to these default templates, I'm going to choose the main sequence, which is going to put a sequence right here. So I'm just going to drag it over and put it there. And this is already kind of set up with all the things that I do. These different things here, you just go to instructions and grab one and drag it over. And where that red line is where you're going to drop it. If you want this to be up here, you grab it and drag it up. That red line puts it in between 2 other instructions. So I want to delete that. So that's all you do to set it up. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one. I'm going to show you the ones that I've got. I've got a sequencer set up for my ASCAR. I'm going to drag it over and drop it in the main part. The reason I've got this set up is in my instructions here, I've got it set to turn on. It's up here, it's farther up. To turn on switch number 4 on I've got a digital logger switch. If we go back here to the equipment switches, I've got a digital logger switch that I've got set up for different things. I've got the computer that controls everything is on one switch, the camera's on another, dome rotation, all that stuff. Switch number 4 is my dew heater. I turn it off and turn it on automatically with this setting. So if we go back, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect that. If we go back here and see, it says switch number 4. Well, it did. There. Switch number 4 is 1 is on, 0 would be off. So now that's the main part. And then I've got an ASCAR start. This sequence, if you look here, it says sequence start area. I'm going to drop it right in there. And this connects equipment. That's basically all it does. It does start the the cooling on the camera. These are all sequential, so it will do this, and whenever it's done with that, it will do this. When it's done with that, it will turn on the dew heater. When it's done with that, it will cool the camera. Now, this is set for 10 minutes, so between cooling the camera and waiting until safe, it's going to wait 10 minutes. Once it's safe, it's going to go on, and it'll do a send to pushover, which is a plug-in. Plug-in. It is in ground station, and this pushover, and pushover is really pretty easy to set up. It sends a message to my phone. It notifies my phone. So it says here, send a pushover, and I put in there, N.I.N.A message, priority high, sound space alarm. The message, that's that's changed. I just updated. Let's go down here to pushover. I want to see, because it should say safe to start or something along those lines. Ground station, send to pushover. I want to try. I'll put this right underneath that. Oh, I see. That's changed. There's a button here that says configure, and you can put a title, which I would put N.I.N.A. Oops. I was hitting caps lock. Oops. That's I. N.A. message. And then here I would put safe to start or something like that. Priority high, sound tugboat. Now, whenever it gets to that, it's going to, I'm going to delete that one. I like the tugboat sound. It sounds pretty good. It's going to send to my phone. It's going to send a message. It'll say N.I.N.A message, and it will say safe to start. So then it's going to connect the rest of the equipment, and then it's going to go on down, and it's going to synchronize my dome. I've got a next dome observatory, and again, it's going to wait until safe. This synchronized dome actually does not happen then. That is a trigger. It's going to wait until safe. I don't want things to get wet. If it's cloudy out, there's a chance of rain. I don't want to take any chances. So I'm being overly cautious. It'll turn, once it's safe, it will turn on the dew heater. It's going to open the dome shutter, unpark the scope. It's going to wait until the target is above the horizon, and then it's going to switch filter. I've got the current filter. I've got several different filters. Let's say I'm going to run a blank filter in my filter wheel. Blank means there's no filter in it. And then it's going to slew to where the target is. Now, as soon as it does the unparking of the scope, this synchronized dome kicks in. So the dome shutter will open. You want to do this correctly. I had this messed up for a while. I had the dome shutter opening after the unparked scope was done. And when I did that, the dome would, as soon as the telescope was unparked, the dome would start slewing. It would start turning. So the shutter wasn't open yet. It's not a big deal, but the way the next dome is set up, it's got little magnetic contacts that charge the battery on the shutter, and you want those pulling straight up. You don't want them pulling sideways. And if the dome slews before the dome shutter is open, it's going to pull those sideways. So I had that kind of messed up for a little bit. So it's going to open the dome shutter, unpark the scope, and then wait for the target to be above the horizon, switch filter to blank. Then it's going to turn the telescope, which also turns the dome because it is now synchronized. Going to turn towards the target, and it's going to run an autofocus. Then it's going to slew and center. It probably isn't going to move at all whenever you slew and center, because it's already slewed to where it thinks the target's at. Whenever it slews and centers, it does a plate solve and makes sure that the telescope is pointed directly at the target. The target's in the center of the image. So if you don't do that, you could be off a little bit. And if you don't do that, if you do multiple sessions, let's say the target's only visible for 3 hours each night. Well, 3 hours of imaging isn't that much. So you might want to do it for several nights. If you don't center it, it could be off a little bit each time. So once it's centered, then it starts guiding. It kicks in the PhD 2, which is coming up here. Should pop. There it is. And it's going to connect the equipment, start the loop. It's going to pick a star, and it's going to start guiding. Once that's done, then it's going to, these are triggers. These are things that could happen. I've got autofocus after filter change. I really don't need that because I don't change the filters in. I've got a one-shot color camera, so I don't change filters except for at the beginning of the imaging session. But this autofocus after HFR increase could keep you from having pictures that images that are out of focus, because over the course of the night, conditions change, the focus will change a little bit. And I've got mine set to 10%. I don't know if that's close, correct. I don't know. That's just what I use, 10%. The meridian flip, it's sitting there. Every image it takes, it looks, how long do I have till meridian flip? With a Alt-Az mount, you don't really have to worry about that. With a equatorial mount, you do. You have a meridian flip. And it's just sitting there whenever it comes up time. If I'm taking a 5-minute exposure, and in 4 minutes it's going to meridian flip, it won't start another exposure. It will sit there and wait that 4 minutes, and then it'll do the flip, and it will start imaging after it does the flip. Okay. And, all these annotations, I could take them out. They probably should be taken out, but I don't. All right. Then it goes to the instruction is take exposures. This is 5 minutes. It's a light image. It's not it could be a flat, a dark, bias, snapshot, but these are all lights. I don't really ever change that. Binning is 1 by 1. The camera gain is automatically set from your settings in the equipment. Mine is 90, and the offset 65. Then I haven't put the finishing. See down here it says sequence end area. I've got a ASCAR sequence end. I'm going to bring it right down here. After it's done, and this loops. Where's the loops at? Right here. As long as the target is above the horizon, as long as it's safe, or until a certain time. I usually set mine to nautical dawn, or astronomical dawn. Usually I'll set it to astronomical dawn. So that is, and you can, if you want it to run a little bit longer than that, maybe you figure it's going to be dark enough for another 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. You could offset this time here. I never do. I always just leave the time as whatever I select here. You can just do a time and put whatever time you want in, or you say you want to stop at 4 o'clock in the morning. It will do 4 o'clock. Okay, astronomical dawn. And then it takes exposures over and over. It will take an exposure and it'll go back up and go through this again. It'll take an exposure and go back up. It just keeps looping until it hits one of these 3 limits, conditions, whatever you want to call them. It's one of those. Then it goes on from there. Then it goes to the sequence end, which is all this stuff here. And here's how I do it. I take my flats at the end. I stop the guiding. I park the dome, which turns the dome back to the park position and closes the shutter. And I slew I've got a it's like a drawing tablet, a lighted drawing tablet, and I've got it mounted in my dome, on the wall, and I slew the telescope so that it's pointing at that and take my flats. So I slew to this, alt as. It's -6 days, 59 minutes, 1 second. Azimuth, 1 day, 57 minutes, 24 seconds. If you know anything about that, that's really low. Anyway, then this is important. You set the tracking to stopped. And that's here in the instructions. If you go down here to telescope, there is set tracking right there. You just drag it over and put it right in there. So it's important to stop the tracking, because if the telescope is still tracking, even though it doesn't take very long, I think I've got my flat set to a little over 1 second per flat, and I'm taking 20. So it's taking, 30 seconds to do the flats. The telescope will move, and you don't want it moving while it's taking the flats. I connect the flat panel, and I switch the filter And I'm not sure. This has got in the trained flat exposures, it's got a filter thing here. I'm not sure if that was on a different, let's say my images were on uh, L Extreme, an L Extreme filter. And I somehow or another in all this, it got switched to blank. If I had L Extreme in here, I'm not sure that it will change it back to L Extreme or not. Again, I play things safe, so I go ahead and change the filter right before I do the flat exposures. I change it to blank, and then here it's set to blank again. And I take 20 of them, and uh, again, binning is 1 by 1. Gain will be set by the uh, program, by the settings in the. I'm not sure why this one has 65 in it, and this one shows in the setup of the camera. It will have 65 on the offset, and it will get that in here. And here, let's see if I can turn this on. It probably should show that. Right there, it says offset 65, gain 90. Now, if we go back to this, it should show, yep, shows 90 and 65. I'm not sure why this is set to 65. I'm going to try something here. Yeah, okay. I just deleted it and it shows 65. Excuse me. So then, whenever it's done doing that, it will park the telescope, set my dew heater switch. Let me show you. I'll go to the switch, turn it on. And this will change to switch. There we go. Now it shows outlet 4 dew heater. And it's set to 0. That will turn it off. And then I warm the camera for 10 minutes. And once that's done, I disconnect all the equipment. I'm done. That's done. So that is setting up. And I went through the whole imaging process. So then you would go to start this. You go to image over here. And this big triangle button right here, you just click on that, and that starts the whole process. Now, the one thing I've had problems with the autofocus. I've got if I go to my equipment and I go to is it focuser? Hey, let's turn it on. Okay, it's not in here. It's in rotator. That's wheel. It's in autofocus. I'm not seeing what I'm looking for. This is the camera stuff here. And focuser. Maybe it's in the focuser. No. Hmm. There's a place here somewhere. That's rotator. That's telescope. That's the guider. Switch. Flat panel. And yeah, I did a flat panel, a flat wizard thing that sets these trained times, and they're not very far apart. A blank is, which really doesn't make sense to me, but I see why. I had the brightness on the blank filter set to 1, and it took a 1.10 second exposure. The L Pro is set to 5. The brightness is set to 5, and it takes a 1 second. The L Extreme, which is the darkest filter I've got, I had the brightness set to 115. That's quite a bit higher, and still at 1 second. Trying to find what I'm looking for, and I'm not finding it. It should be in, would have thought it would be in the focuser. Where it shows it shows no settings. It would show the different offsets for the different. I'm almost positive it used to. Let's disconnect that. And see. Let's try that. Yeah, it still doesn't show me what I'm looking for. Well, I was going to show you that flat panel. Ah, I know where it's at. This thing is crazy. There's this place here is the settings, and here's autofocus. And I've got different, like the blank is the offset 0. That's the base. And the L Extreme is 229. It moves the focuser 229 steps to start the focus. So whenever I was having problems with, I didn't have that set up. I was having problems with the autofocus. So I would come up here and start the imaging manually. I'd take like 10 or 20 seconds, depending on what filter I was using. If I was using a no filter at all, I'd leave it at 10 seconds. With the L Extreme, I set it to 20 seconds. But then I would come down here to the focuser, and I would move that, and it will show you down here, whenever it's taking pictures, taking images, it will show an HFR. And I would move that and watch the stars and see if they got better or worse. And I would move it around, move the focuser around until I got the lowest HFR. Then I would do the autofocus. Setting the offset in here in the autofocus section, setting these offsets down here made a major difference. Major difference. Yeah, I've got a filter in there that's just a disc, a black piece of plastic that is in there for darks. I can take darks using, rather than covering the end of the telescope, I turn the filter wheel to the dark and do it that way. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I've got all kinds of different stuff in my plugins. These are all the different plugins I've got. I've got this one here. That's kind of cool. I've got a camera um, in my observatory, and I can play it here. Of course, it's dark right now, and I don't have the IR turned on. The only time I turn that on is when I've got something going on and I want to see where the telescope's at, where the dome is pointed, if the shutter's open or whatever. Then I'll turn it on. But I normally have it off. But it's kind of cool. But anyway, that is how you set up the advanced sequence. Oh, one thing I just realized up here says advanced sequence. If you have a target, and this doesn't have a target name in it, it's just says, oops, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, I must have. Yeah. Okay. If you don't have, if you put whatever you put in this target name, even if you, a lot of times, whenever I'm doing the initial setup, this is the framing and I don't know what it's called, framing, and let's see if it pops up anything. This is where you would frame, let's say, M42. Okay. And I'm going to load the image. This is the Orion Nebula, the Great Orion Nebula. And it's going to load a picture in here. There it is. Okay. And then you can move your, whatever this is in this box is where it's going to point the telescope. I've got mine set to 70 degrees tilt. That's the way my camera's set up on my telescope. I'm going to get a rotator and I'll be able to set that wherever I want at the time, which will be pretty nice. Anyway, once you have that in there, then you come down here to add target to sequence and then go to sequencer. And here's my Ask Our main sequence. I'm going to add it. Okay. And it's going to pop it in there. Well, oh. Yeah, it put it down here. So that's one thing. If you have something in there and you just think, well, I want to take pictures of something else, you need to take that out, the original target out, or you'll have both targets in there. Okay, so now here it says M42. If I change this to, now, if I try to save this, it's going to say advanced sequence. Remember that advanced sequence up here at the top? Advanced sequence. That's what it's going to save it as. So I'm going to change this to Orion Nebula. Now, whenever I try to save it, it says Orion Nebula. Okay? So now, in your files, whatever you have in this part, under target, in the name, whatever's there is what folder it's going to put it in on your in your files. So if you want it to be Orion Nebula, you need to put Orion Nebula in there also. I can't really show you that because I don't I'm not actually imaging, but here I can show you this. Yep. Maybe I can show you this. There we go. Okay. I know this one's different. It says it put this folder as IC 1396. That's actually Elephant's Trunk Nebula. But if we go to and I've got mine set up so that it's putting all this information in the files. I can show you how to do that too. But what I was wanting to show you was that this name, if you don't change it on in the target name, whatever you have in this target name is what it's going to save that folder as and put all your stuff in that folder. Just heads up. If you, whatever is up here in the top, before it said advanced sequence, I think, that's whenever you go to save this sequence, it's going to save it as the advanced sequence. There, I've got one that I had changed to M42. I won't have a advanced sequence in here because if I happen to go to save it before I change that, I'll change it here. And that's not a big deal, but okay. Now, in the file thing, let's see. Imaging, I believe, is where. Here we go. Okay. This is what you like. This is an example 1226, 2025, M33, light gain 1600. That's all the stuff that I've got in my file name. This is where you set that. And this stuff is just reference. It tells you what these different things mean, like pound or dollar sign application start date. Dollar sign is right here. Application start date with format, year, month, day. So, it's you can make those files have whatever you want in them. Okay. If you have any questions, just let me know. If there's something that I skipped over, let me know and I will yeah, it's all right. I disconnected with things still connected. I shut it off with things still connected. They disconnect whenever you shut it down. You should shut everything off. You should disconnect everything before you shut it down. I didn't do it. If you have any questions or want to know something more, I'm not an expert, but I have been using N.I.N.A for several years now, and I've learned a lot about it. I'm still learning. There's still things that are a little different to me, but I like N.I.N.A. It's a great program. Uh, if you have any questions, just comment and let me know. I'll try to answer them the best I can. If there's something you want me to do a video on about N.I.N.A, more, let me know. So anyway, that's about it. So I will see y'all later. Bye.